Hello, and welcome to John's vlog. I am busy driving for my last time in this placement to St. Columba's Hospice. It's a drive from Dunbar to Edinburgh, the Trinity area in Edinburgh. So I wanted to give you an update about what's going on in my life and also to share um, some insights and intuitions. Oh yeah, I should start with some really magical things going on yesterday in my walk. So we could start with the more metaphysical stuff, and then move on to the mind, to the body. We have plenty of time. Okay, so yeah, let's start with the metaphysical. And I'm a little bit animated right now, excited, and I'm just acknowledging that because I want to reconnect. I'm just going to take a breath for a moment and reconnect with that really beautiful experience that I had yesterday with one of my guides. So let me just reconnect back with that moment. And feel free to join me in another breath in through the nose, nice and deep, and breathe out through the mouth, nice and loud. Good. Yeah. So yesterday I was, to give you context, I was walking down at a place called, um, well, it's to give context better than its name. Um, it is it is right next to the Torness nuclear power station, and that is just outside of the little town that I live in called Dunbar on the east coast of Scotland. Built in the 1980s, the power station is still running, and it's a really beautiful location that sits down at the sea there. And so I went there because this car that I'm recording in right now, we decided to sell it. And so on Wednesday, so in 2 days' time, I'm taking it. Plan is to take it up to Edinburgh and to sell it to a company there. Um, and why it's all about just, frankly speaking, it's a luxury to have two vehicles for one driver, and increasingly we have less need for a car as well, and everything that owns you, everything that you own owns you, right? Um, and the reason I'm driving it today is I want to give a bit of a run. Its battery was a little bit flat, so after charging it up, giving it a good run as well, to clear up the brakes and stuff. Um, so yeah, this really beautiful location um, is right next to the power station. Now, you wouldn't think that a power station, would be a beautiful location to walk in or to receive like metaphysical messages. Um, but I absolutely did. It absolutely is, and I feel like it's very Scotland or Scottish, right? Which is um, often our the security around the places, like the visual security, as I describe it. I don't know much about the actual security, but we tend to have quite an open, approach to our buildings, and that's and these important locations, because it feels like beyond some simple fences and I'm sure fantastic security teams and police, it feels much more like part of the surrounding, of the community, of the neighborhood, of nature. The kind of the more you seamlessly integrate places like this, even though it's a nuclear power station, in other words, I think it's a really, really beautiful place. Um, so I went down for a walk there, and one reason I went there is because I told you about the car, is because they have a 2 meter height barrier, and so I had to go under that, and only our car gets under, our camper van doesn't. So it was also like a way of saying goodbye to the location for a while. I won't be able to visit as easily with a camper van that just can't get very close to it. But I'm sure we'll end up there either walking or sometimes borrowing another vehicle or whatever we do. And as I was walking, I was I describe it as having a chat with my guides, um, and it actually took me a little while into the conversation, a few minutes into the conversation, to realize which of my guides I was talking to, and just really magical stuff came through about nuclear energy, about the transition that I'm going through in my life, and about the planet, and just a lot of really powerful messages that feel good for me to both journal and to share. And so some of the first messages were coming through. I was asking about the location that I was walking next to the power station. So it's down at a beach. We walked up this kind of, it's almost like a cliff top walk, and it runs really high, and there's like there's an old stone wall that runs along it. So when you're walking there, you don't feel like you're on a cliff. You have beautiful views out over to the west, all the way out to the Bass Rock, out to the other incredible, beautiful features of East Lothian. And I was asking my guides, like, what's the significance of the location? And they explained that around the Lothians, around East Lothian, there are these like volcanic plugs, like these extinct volcanoes, like the core part, as I understand it, of a volcano. And they include the Bass Rock, Craigleith. So they're two islands out in the Firth of Forth. They're just a few miles out from land. It includes the Law Hill, which is very prominent in the kind of landscape. Also, Traprain Law, and the Lamb Island. Like all these collectively form part of like an energetic network. And each one of these kind of extinct volcanoes have they're like the outer boundaries of an inner circle of energy of the planetary energetic grid, but that each one also acts as a node. Like it's I see it like the internet's like lots of series of nodes connecting, one to many all around the world. And they're showing me that the people that decided to build the power station there intuitively were led to build on that location because it is one of the outer boundaries, and it previously was a node, like it was one of these energetic nodes. And it was quite fascinating because I was intrigued because although there's like some nice undulating hills there, it is relatively flat for Scotland anyway. There's no like specific hills that stick out there. And so as I walked a bit further, as I got closer to the power station, I was asking, what are my guides' view of nuclear power? And I asked about, by this point, I'd asked which of my guides I was talking to, and my guide was Muia, which her name means remember who you are. And she was describing, she's like a dragon spirit guide, and she was describing how many galactic races, so other beings from our universe, have attempted to utilize similar technologies to nuclear power, and they've struggled. And even those that are more advanced than ourselves, and they said this is because the radiation frequency, um, and we start talking a bit about half-lives uh, of radiation. They're saying that the radiation frequency of other planets is quite difficult to maintain a stable nuclear reaction. And they said the reason is it's like there's consciousness reasons behind it. Um, and so our Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, she has both the intention and the capability to hold in her resonance frequency um, nuclear energy, like plutonium. And so all those particles, all those atoms that are vibrating as radiation, um, Mother Earth is able to hold. Now it also seems like an intention, like it's like the planet has to give permission for these technologies to exist in a stable form, and then also and there's reasons why a planet would choose not to. So I thought that was really, really fascinating. Like I'd never considered the physical, metaphysical aspects of some of more, physics and science, like or nuclear physics, and how that interacts with the planets. Because of course we don't know too much about using nuclear power on other planets. I believe we do use it on Mars, which is fascinating, and in the rovers there, and we use it in space. But that's yeah, that's really fascinating. And then, so some of the reasons why a planet may choose not to hold resonant frequencies in a stable form for nuclear materials and radiation is the planet's own ability um, to process, to recycle nuclear, to us, we call it nuclear waste, like nuclear energy we no longer have a use for or know how to use. And what's really interesting is they're showing, like, my guide was showing me that once we return nuclear waste to Earth, into the Earth, that the planet, like, this is what Mother Gaia, Mother Earth enjoys, is having the nuclear waste put into the ground. But she must see and feel and agree to, like, the long-term degradation and eventually the what's the word, complete kind of deactivation of the nuclear waste. So half-life after half-life, and I believe it's in the centuries after centuries that this process takes until eventually it decays to a state where there's no longer any radiation or radiation beyond that of the background noise of radiation of the planet. And during that half-life process, that decay process of radiation, that Mother Earth takes the energy and transmutes it, so transforms it to become part of uh, the energy that then fuels life on the planet. And Mother Gaia is very much about this, right? It's like everything must be sustainable, everything must happen for a reason. Now, is nuclear waste all good? No, probably not. Is it the most aligned way for us to generate power with the planet? No. Is it better than some ways? Yes. Um, and so there's lots of philosophical and scientific arguments about the use of nuclear power, but that channeling from my guide Muya really helped me a lot, because helped me helped me expand my awareness that the planet is also able to both play a part in the use of such technologies, and then also have a say in it, and that stabilization of nuclear energy I found really fascinating, um, because I often think of nature being supportive of uh, the use of humans technology, or eradication of it, being things like um, major cataclysmic events, like a tsunami or um, volcano or tornadoes or ice ages, like that. A planet could decide, oh, I don't want these things anymore, and basically wipe the canvas clean and get to start again. But there's just this huge willingness of Mother Earth to support humanity through this transition. I mean, it is such incredible unconditional love, and you can see that Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, continually walks this fine line between like destruction, allowing supporting the humans in their transition whilst trying to avoid planetary destruction. Um, so yeah, I found that really beautiful experience. Um, and I was asking about the whole process of hundreds of years. I believe this is what I was hearing. Hundreds of years it takes to decay radioactive radioactive waste, and that got me really thinking, because why would a planet or any conscious being agree to something like a deal, effectively, that takes hundreds of years to see to fruition? And then I was like shown more about time and how time works. And this is a concept, like a mental model that I've not seen before and I've not heard others describe. And so what I was being shown is that this now present moment, this now present moment is right now. It's everything to us in this now moment, and that it is infinite. And I often thought of these terms as being all really lovely, like, oh, it's always a present moment, and like Eckhart Tolle's teachings on on presence and the present moment are really really fantastic. But I didn't really understand, um, like, how does the past parallel present and future? How do they all coexist, or how do they exist? And how does linear time work or not work, and all these aspects? So what I was shown for the first time was, I keep this in my hand. Imagine a circle in the middle. So imagine there's a wheel, and at the center of the wheel is this now present moment. So it's like a circle. Isn't it cool? There's a steering wheel. And then on the outside of the circle, so on the outside of the wheel, there are these spokes. So there's like spokes of a wheel going from the center and then coming out to each point. And at the end of each spoke, at the outer end of the wheel, exists these present moments that are past, parallel. So past would be like, for me, could be a past moment in this life. It could be a past moment in a previous life, all the way back to my soul origins. Every past that my soul has experienced through different incarnations, through thousands of incarnations. And then some of these spokes are also present. And so there's like parallel versions of John in different timelines. And these are also spokes all on the outside. And I imagine this kind of to the left of being past. So the spokes on the left of the wheel. I mean, it's all a circle, right? But if I was to freeze frame the wheel, I'd look to the left and see the past. In the now moment, I'd see there's also like above and below parallel, and about around 8 or 9 parallel versions of John of this incarnation, different timelines. Now they are merging. For me, they're merging. It feels a lot less. And I did a video on this recently. I think it feels like it's down to about somewhere between 4 and 6, like they continue to merge. And then on the right of the wheel, those spokes on the outer side of the wheel I see as future. Now the reality is they're all actually happening now. And they all, so the purpose of the spoke is they connect another present moment to this now present moment. And that's how your past works, for example. So that's how your past memory works. Every time I want to remember, let's say, what it was like for me 10 years ago. 10 years ago was 2014. I was in a job that I was struggling in, and I was very stressed and unhappy. And so those, like, just remembering those experiences connects me back down that spoke across space and time. And when I recall some of those emotions, in particular from that past experience of me, that past now moment, um, I'm reliving those experiences. Like they're alive. Like there's a part of me back then that is alive and experiencing that. And the spoke is what feeds this now moment of how do I feel about that now. And I just want to be clear, I remember that suffering that I went through, and I acknowledge fully that I was absolutely the instigator of the choices I made to put myself in that position. Like my soul and John had clearly decided it was time for, like, we call it in like tarot, like um, a a tower moment where there's this collapse of, like, in my case, like ego and all these things. And I was like, I was reborn. I went through like a total rebirth, and it allowed me to go into it was a huge help for me to go into the next rebirths. Um, so that was hugely powerful. So I was asking, in the context of nuclear energy, I was asking, so why would a planet, make a deal when the future kind of now the future spoke of the wheel for Mother Gaia is a really long way off. Like she's got a long way to go to really feel the reward of nuclear waste being put into the ground and eventually decaying safely. And my guide and Mother Gaia, who was chatting at this point as well, said to me, "Look, agreements made now in this present moment creates that future reality, and that future reality of where there is, safe disposal of the nuclear waste affect the now. So that all of these are connected. All of these present moments are connected together. They all influence each other. That's why this now moment is a product of my past, my parallel, my present, and my future. And this energy flows freely between each of them. And so as I create that future, when you do a deal, when you create a contract, when you sign an employment contract, when you have something called a soul contract, where you agree with another soul to do something in a specific lifetime or lifetimes, like these have an effect on the now. Just like when we have, past life wounding, like the service I offer, the hidden witch wound, which is a healing service for people who've encountered past life traumas, often being, murdered, like drowned or burned as witches. That they're their trauma and often their physical wounds repeat, those patterns repeat into this present moment. And that's because that energy is like traveling down that spoke from the outside of the wheel where their past life is still running, is still being lived. That energy continues to flow into the present moment. And I was like, wow, wow, wow. It's all very cool. By the way, if you've heard something like this before, um, I've certainly, I was going to say, I was going to say out loud, I'd never heard of the Wheel of Time. Wow, okay. I have heard of the Wheel of Time, but I didn't really know what it meant. I've never seen it presented like this. If you know anyone else that has shared anything like this, yeah, please do share it with me. I'd love to hear. Um, so yeah, that was really fascinating. That, and I asked, um, like, how is our consciousness capable of like sustaining like all these, this present moment, and like, how is our soul, how is our consciousness capable of uh, supporting and running these past lives, parallel, present, future lives, all at the same time? And I think the simple answer I got was our souls, our consciousness are incredibly powerful. And we constantly, especially as humans, underestimate our capabilities. And that's across, every dimension of us. And then there's this huge power that is shown, and I love the flashlight or torch, as we call in the UK, kind of visualization is that wherever our consciousness decides to look, to focus, um, our consciousness creates that reality. Wherever we shine our torch, our flashlight, we create the reality around us. Because our reality is inherently um, dormant, inactive, in standby mode, waiting for us to experience it until we shine the light of our consciousness on it. And then it is molded and co-created, if we're by ourselves or if we're part of a collective, like the human race, like that. There's that shared co-creation of the reality. So that was helpful. I think it somewhere between learning about a planet's capability to support and to choose to support nuclear power, and then I'm getting to learn a bit more about time, or at least the kind of concept of time. And I definitely resonate with, time isn't real. Time is an illusion. I think it's a very helpful and healthy way to challenge the paradigms that we're constantly presented with. And I'm learning now that I've left my corporate job, and I'm actually free. I left the contract and everything. I'm like, I'm out, out, out. Um, well, it's big potholes here. Yeah, I really feel good that I'm in a happy place now where I can get to relearn how time works. Um, and there's more like this. That's a whole other subject, right? I was just about to go down that rabbit hole. It's like, no, no, no. I don't think we have quite enough time for all these rabbit holes. Okay, so and the name of the place that I was walking, like, and experiencing all of this was uh, at a place called Skate Raw. Um, Now, as so, all this was just in a few minutes as I walked. I think less than 10 minutes. Probably taking me. It's taken me three times that to explain it to you. Um, I I walked all the way down, and I got by this point I got close to the power station, and you can walk like along the sea defense of it. Like it's so lovely. I mean, it's a big kind of 1980s concrete defense against the sea. But what I mean is, it's really lovely that they allow you to walk so close to it, and it feels very inviting. Um, so that was a lovely walk to that point. And as I turned, and this is going back to like why the power station was built there. As I turned, there's a really, really fascinating rock formation that runs from next to um, the power station all the way along this beautiful little beach out to the back to the car park and then beyond out round the coast. And the rock formation, so I came down to like right down at the sea. I can I did take some photos, but they never do it justice. Um, and I'd love to. I'll have to ask my Scottish geologist friend, um, and if you haven't checked out her stuff, please do. Just a really fascinating work that she does, and she's so passionate about it. And I must ask her, like, what are these rocks? Because to put it in simple terms, the rocks appear like a flooring, like a stone floor that's probably a meter deep, and it runs like waves, like this, like just these waves of rock. And they form some interesting straight shapes. Now it's kind of broken up and goes out to a kind of almost like a little pier, and then also continues along the shoreline. But it is really fascinating. And I remember I might have read somewhere, maybe it's one of the local signs, for quite some time, I was quite dismissive of the rocks, thinking that it was actually cement or concrete. Like, in other words, it was man-made that someone had put down. I Now I look at it and it's like there's just no way. Even if someone's written that and said that, like, it is not cement or concrete. It's not man-made. Um, and so I asked my guides about it. It's like, why am I? What is the significance about this? And they said, well, it goes back to the Atlantean times. Now, remember when we're talking about time, it's easy to default to linear time and say, well, in the past there was a place called Atlantis. It A lot of these kind of what we might describe uh, in modern times, we might describe as like kind of failed or subsequently destroyed uh, civilizations. That it's true that they don't exist in this third dimension, but for those that, like Lemuria, for example, that actually raised up in vibration, it was just the third dimension aspect of them that died, and that's why we no longer see them. They effectively ascended, and so they're fifth dimensional and above. So it's like a bubble of higher dimensional reality, and it sits. I see it like sitting just above the third dimension. So a bit like, if you could put on glasses and you could magically see multiple dimensions all at once, you would look at the third dimensional version of this beach and see that floating above it, something in the region of about 20 meters higher, is the fifth dimensional version, and that they kind of just overlay on each other. There's like overlap, but there is separation also, and that if you want to be able to see the fifth dimension, you need to raise your vibration to being fifth dimensional. Okay, so I asked, like, oh, that's really cool. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Please tell me more about Atlantis. And they said, well, the one thing that comes up a lot, and this is another rabbit hole I'm not going to disappear down. Watch your ears for a second. One thing that comes up a lot in like our kind of ancient aliens and history, the kind of mysteries of our history, is that there's a lot of patterns persisted throughout different cultures around the same time frames many thousands of years ago, of different technologies, sort of similar technologies, and hieroglyphs, and so for example, pyramids, appear around the world. Um, they're not just the Egyptian pyramids; they're famous, but there's many more. Um, and one of the races, or civilizations, should I say, because it wasn't just one race, that propagated this was the Atlanteans. And although they're primarily like a water-based civilization, they had civilization on land, and they they showed me at this location at Skate Raw that they built this. We'd call it a temple, but it was functional. It was more like the energetic nodes that I was talking about earlier, like on the energetic grid of the planet. So it's more like a kind of a gateway, an energy exchange location. And although it was called a palace, it it was called that because it was very highly significant, um, and that it's a really funny way of thinking about it, right? Um, we don't typically think of our nuclear power stations as being a place of spirituality, right? But if you look at places like CERN, there's another rabbit hole. There's actually a lot of spirituality, and you can Google that, right? There's a lot very publicly associated with CERN, including statues that sit outside of CERN. So, like, you can see that a place that generates energy or that facilitates the generation or transformation of energy, um, is really spiritually important as much as it physically is. It is also metaphysically important. So I really loved that. I love this idea that we that our power stations could be a place of worship. Because what a beautiful um, thing to worship. Our own energy and our own energy generation. Um, and I saw on this temple, like it wasn't huge. It's hard to see the dimensions. I'd say it was about the size of the Bay Area that I was in, and that's something like quarter of a mile to half a mile long. Some, like, significant building, but not like some sort of megalith. And I was shown that I, like my soul, had incarnations, and that I was. That's why I keep being drawn to that place, like a past life memory. Is why it's also an Atlantean memory. So if I didn't make myself super clear, these are. This is when I was like parts of the Atlantean civilization, and I was traveling around the world, helping get up and running these energetic um, nodes of the planetary grid. And the purpose is to help facilitate positive and negative energy and everything in between, and help with a constant balanced flow around the planet. Because what it does is the energetic grid is they're really like the blood vessels and the arteries of Mother Earth energetically, and so they allow the creation and facilitation of life, of harmony between species, the balance of the water, fire, earth, wind, and rain, and all the elements. So yeah, I hope that gives a little bit of context. There's a lot of concepts in this video, coming up in 40 minutes. Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed um, that experience, and then I asked a bit more about what's all this mean? Like, why am I being shown this now? What can we do with this information? And as I said to begin with, because we're selling our car, like we can't won't be able to go back there. So that was like one, very easily. So that was one reason. It's like they're just trying to almost like put um, draw a line under those experiences that were kind of open-ended for me there. Like every time I was visiting, I was getting some insights, but I really wanted to learn more. Um, and and it's like, what next for that area? Well, there's not a lot required. Sometimes when I or others who have an interest in working the planetary grid go there, and I have seen someone else do this, is they sat with crystals right in the very location where I saw like the very center of this Atlantean like power node, the power station, um, this palace. Like that's exactly where I saw them sat, I actually walked past them and said hi to them. And I think it was very early on after my awakenings. I was very nervous. I didn't really know what to say. Right now, I would at very least just thank them and say thank you so much for your service to the planet, to the universe. Um, and if I was even more confident, I'd stop and maybe ask and chat, or maybe even join in. So yeah, whoever that beautiful soul was, you sat with your crystals down at that incredibly magical place. Thank you so much. And I hope that one day these messages, however they're given to you, are shared, and the importance of work that you were doing there. And so whether it's me or another grid worker that goes there, there's still work to do to help that space, that site, continue to um, integrate these fifth and sixth dimension um, energies into the third dimension, and help them all these dimensions more freely integrate, um, because that fifth dimension version of that palace power generation is very much uh, up and running. It's the third dimension that doesn't exist and just needs the energy facilitated by a grid worker. I mean, when I say a grid worker, I mean just someone who has an interest in facilitating and helping the balancing of and free flowing of the energy around the physical area that they're in and around the planet. So uh, that was incredible. Um, I'm hoping that I'm explaining all this. Uh, I have been asked to share some of this, like some diagrams and drawing. That it's hard for me, but I'm being like drawn and guided to it. So people are asking me to do this, and my art skills, like, they need a few centuries of development. It reminds me of when I was 12 years old. I haven't really changed, developed my art skills since about that age. So if I do get brave and bravely share, then just know that um, it was a lot for me to do it. So yeah, there's that. And then just to give a quick recap on what's going on in my life, um, I I don't know. There's just so many things happening at once. Um, oh, Lots of themes of letting go. So lots of themes of, because I was also asking my guides in the same old conversation, like, what does all this mean? Like the aspects of time that we've covered, and then nuclear power and the grid and the different dimensions. Like there's a lot in there. What does it all really mean for me practically? And the answer was for me to be aware of all these changes going on in my life, like this transition that I've just left my corporate job just over a month ago now, and just days ago I left, and I can like freely talk about it now. Is I left the contract because I was like on a kind of garden leave um, for the last few weeks, and it's kind of like getting your holidays, like you're still employed and paid for a month, but I didn't have to do any work. In fact, I wasn't allowed to do any work, which was also funny. So yeah, all that happened, And I went ahead and like posted on LinkedIn and all the social medias as well, and just said, this is me. I've like changed career, and this is what I'm doing now. And lots of lovely support from people, and that was fantastic. So yeah, I also left a couple of membership groups that were absolutely fantastic for me, both from ranging from business to the the more metaphysical side, like the psychic side of my world. Um, but the the really fascinating part is I I haven't like fallen out with those people. I just feel like they they definitely served a purpose, and helped me massively, and I'm so grateful for them. And I'll always make an effort to attribute what I've learned from them, in my future, and in my future work. But I also wanted to break free. It's very me, right? Very kind of, I want to learn everything myself and do it all myself. That kind of that lone wolf part of me. Um, but at the same time, it's just really important um, to acknowledge that wherever my energy goes, and this is like money, it's time, it's my thoughts, wherever my energy is going right now, I'm I'm releasing what doesn't, which is no longer aligned, and this is a process that I will just continue to go through for the rest of my life. So yeah, left memberships. We sold our holiday house. Left jobs. So I sold the holiday house. Selling the car on Wednesday. Um, and we've been working through. It was quite funny. I spoke to my internet service provider who did the internet for our holiday house, and I was like busy cancelling that, since we'd sold the holiday house, and they were like totally confused. They said, "No, no, no, you've not had internet with us for like since summer last year." And it was quite funny because summer last year I had lots of problems with them, but they're not working, which I find really fascinating. Um, so not only did they, I didn't owe them any money, and in fact I hadn't paid them any money, and I kept saying, "No, I've been getting it for like, does that mean I've been getting it for free?" And they said, "Look, we don't know how you've been getting it. It's maybe just because my internet router was still on." But said no, that I definitely don't owe them anything. I did this like in writing, and then I phoned them as well. Um, and they also owed me £39, so that was fantastic. So yeah, this was all just really about this transitioning of letting go, and now creating space. With the letting go, creating the space in my days so that I can receive, beautiful messages like that, that channel message from my guides, and I'm just so grateful. And to do it in a waking walk, in nature, even though it's right down by, whoa, it's close. Even though it's right down by a power station, felt really good. Yeah, so I didn't talk much about the changes in my life. I was really just covering those at a high level. Um, but yeah, my purpose of today's video really just to vlog those experiences and help bring them in reality. I always feel like the more we talk, and share, the more we bring these into this reality. So I hope this helps you. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any ideas, or requests for topics for me to cover or to ask my guides about and channel, yeah, just let me know. I'd love to do more. We're just gonna go with some cobbles. It's very bumpy. uh, you can't beat these hundreds of years old cobbles in Edinburgh. Um, so I hope this finds you well. And I am just going into the hospice for the last time for my last three treatments that I'll be giving for reflexology. So the beautiful souls there, and yeah, really excited to do that. And looking forward to uh, starting up on my own. I start up next Monday, a week's time, um, and I've got two more. Uh, Currently, two spaces free for reflexology treatments. So looking forward to filling those as well. It'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's me. I'm signing off. Thank you so much. Sending love from Scotland.